Thank you, Supervisor, Honorable Charlene. So, Nisha Siltna Mr. Purnell Halona.
Good chair, committee members. Yes, that's fine. I would accept that addition. Yeah.
Oh, and then committee members, do you have also other items that you wish to include in this in this motion?
Chair, this is Delegate Slater.
Oh, Cecilia, go ahead, Honorable Vice Chair Carl Slater.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to bring up the point that we have, I guess, a report on Gentle Iron Hawk, and we've heard from social services recently, and I'm not sure we're going to get a meaningful meaningful new information just in a couple of days. And so I'm proposing that in the interest of time, since we have these new reports, that we delete them from the agenda and then send a letter to the Division of Social Services requesting information in a written report. I think that would be more valuable to the committee. That's just my opinion, so I'm definitely open to what the rest of the committee thinks. But if we have a lot of reports and discussion items, this is a topic we've covered pretty extensively, and it deserves a lot of attention. But a couple of days usually doesn't make a marked difference in getting new information. Just a suggestion, Chair and my colleagues.
Mr. Chair, please. Wasn't there a meeting at 1 or 2 o'clock this afternoon with Speaker Damon, leadership meeting, Mr. Chair?
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Chair, so
yo.
Yes, there is. There's Delegate Paul Begay. Yes, there is a meeting at 2 o'clock. Leadership teleconference update on the hardship applications. That's the main issue this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, committee members. How do we best proceed? Okay. Moving parties, Supervisor Honorable Charlene, so Honorable Purnell Halona. Maybe we as requested, delete the report on Gentle Iron Hawk Shelter opening plan. And then the others we can go forward with. And this executive session report on Chavez versus Navajo Nation, perhaps that can be delayed too. And that way we just limit it to the Kotaker Museum, the update from Navajo Hopi Relief, and then the update from Navajo Area IH.
Chair, this is Delegate So.
Yes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Shiash. I would be in agreement with that, but one that I may suggest with the Irvin Chavez update, could we recess right before 2 and then reconvene at 6 to get that update?
Recess right before the leadership meeting, and then once well, I guess the main thing is the committee was sent the question. That would probably be the only update different from Monday's update. So it's almost on the same reasoning that how much more of a different information would they receive? Would be the only thought for deleting it from today's agenda. Shabiza.
Okay, well, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I guess we'll proceed at your suggestion as well as with delegates later.
Okay, Kushila. So, committee members, Honorable Halona, you concur?
Yes, sir. I do. I agree.
Okay, so Ms. Martinez, the ones, the report from update report on Code Talker Museum, would remain in with the amended motion, and then the inclusion of the Navajo Hopi relief update report, and then the update with Navajo area IHS. And then under old business, the executive session would be deleted also. That would be the inclusive of the amended motion to adopt the agenda. With that, committee members, any further discussion? If not, Mr. Mose, roll call vote, please.
Right, sir. Honorable Paul Begay Jr.
Green.
Honorable Paul Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Carl Russell Slater.
Delegate Slater, green.
Honorable Carl Russell Slater votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Honorable Green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Charlene So.
I vote green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Edison J. Wanika. Honorable Edison J. Wanika. Chair, a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, committee members. So with that, we have an amended agenda, and we'll go to item 4, review and adopt the journal. There being none, we'll go to item 5, receiving report A, report on the Navajo Nation Code Talker Museum. There is that state appropriation. So we have Ms. Hope McDonald Lone Tree, as well as from our legislative staff, as well as Mr. Leonard Hardy, that's with the CPMD of the Division of Community Development. Shemayaz, Ms. Lone Tree, and Mr. Hardy, you have the conference line to address the committee. Thank you.
Good morning, Yat Benen, Shiyaja, Chairman So, distinguished members of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. We appreciate your time this morning and thank you for asking for an update on this very important project for our nation and America for that matter. We have some general information from you and we look forward to any questions or comments and certainly support for the project. Again, as you mentioned, Chairman, so we have Leonard Hardy from CPMD who will provide some of the technical information and expenditures, and I can provide any other information that the committee might need. We will be scheduling a team meeting again in early December to follow up, to bring everyone together again, at least by phone. It's the virus has put a delay on many things, and so which has been unpredicted. So we are doing the best that we can to continue to keep this project moving for our elder veterans, the Navajo Code Talkers. So with that, I'm going to give the floor to Leonard Hardy to provide you some information, and then if there's something that I need to add to his report, I'll provide it, and then we look forward to your questions. So I'll give the floor to Mr. Hardy to give you some preliminary information, and then we'll go from there. Thank you, Chairman So.
Good morning. My name is Leonard Hardy. I work with Capital Project Management Department. I'd like to say good morning to Honorable Daniel So, Honorable Carl Slater, Vice Chairman, and members of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee this morning. Thank you for allowing me to give a report on the project that we are working on currently. I'd like to probably separate my report into, first of all, the appropriations and contracts, and then I want to go into the sort of the timelines, and then end it with the expenditures this morning. Again, thank you again for allowing me to speak. I'd like to first go back in time, and we did, in working with the President and Vice President's office, CPMD has had several meetings with them in starting this project. The money that was appropriated was from the state of New Mexico, and the amount of $1,043,928.27. And we did use some of the money. So we did talk with them. When I was talking with them, they were asking me in getting the contract for this project. Our normal process was to go through like advertisement, and then go through our normal procurement activities to get the contractor on board and do a contract process, and it was deemed to be too cumbersome and too long, and it is for all of our contracts. We decided that the NDOT, in the Navajo Transportation, the Division of Transportation, has an on-call engineering services, and they have a contract already as well. So it was decided that this project will be a task order for them to carry on, for them to work on. First task order is to do a preliminary investigations and preliminary they call it programming. When we do programming, we meet with the project architect, and we meet with the owners of the building that's going to use the building users, and we do go through a series of questions and what they're going to do with the building, what do they want to see, those types of programming activities that we go through. During that time, they did ask us to sort of what do you want to see in the land that was given to the code talkers out there, the NDOT, that parcel of land, and they gave us maps of the 264 and that back road 54 back through coal mine, and ask us to lay out buildings. What do you want to see around this code talker building, and also the Veterans Administration facility? We did have the group from Judicial Branch had joined us then, and we had, I think, 4 teams. I think it was made, and we did go through placing buildings, and some of them said they wanted to see a restaurant, cafe. They want to see like a strip commercial mall, like small stores and stuff like that. They wanted to see a large box building type department store, like Targets and stuff like that. They also wanted to see a gas station with a with a store. They wanted to see an RV park in case like people are traveling through. They want to stop overnight and to visit the museum, visit the veterans buildings and other buildings in the area. We also did talk about providing a hotel as well for this parcel of land. Also a vendors area where they could our local artisans would bring in their artwork and to sell. So that's what we did talk about, and they did give us a report. They also went to a second stage where they said, what kind of building do you like to see on the outside? What do you want to see? What kind of pathways? What kind of driveways do you want to see? What kind of parking lots? Do you want a building just for parking lots? Those kind of stuff that we, that was presented to us, and we did during the second meeting. We did go through those the different venues of getting the sort of putting our wish list together for that parcel of land. So that's what had happened. We did several meetings with the again in the appropriations. We got off subject. Sorry. The on-call engineering services were being made by Wilson and Company, and the project manager from there. The contact person from there is Derek Meyer. They do have a project architect, and also he is a project manager as well. That's Brett Beatty. He's an AIA architect that is also on the job. So going back to the contract was developed with OPVP and NDOT and task orders to be part of the existing contract with Wilson and Company. Where we get involved was that CPMD to monitor the project, to be available during the meetings, and just get to be a part of the meeting, and just to talk about different things and put in our 2 cents as well. And we did do that, and we are working with NDOT. We have an account. They have an accountant there. His name is Arnold Jake. and we have been working with them in the payments and stuff for that. So this on-call services, Wilson and Company, they are the main project architect for this project, and did again several work, and they also made a master planning. That the master planning did arrive or derive from our meetings doing the our planning of what we want to do for this parcel of land. So we did receive that master plan from them, and in a booklet form and in a report. We did receive that. From there, we did meet with the during this meeting. We did meet with the Code Talkers Association, Mr. McDonald, and a couple of veterans. I don't remember their name. I think it was Mr. Bill, or I think it was. They suggested that the 400-page report that was derived from the students from the University of Arizona. I think I'm saying the right university. That there's some our students that were asked to give their expertise and what they were studying to provide in working with the association to provide reports, plans, and what they know about the buildings, and to put it all together. And that came out to be a report, a 400-page report, and they asked that this report be followed. Another thing was they would like to have the building situated on top of the hill as you're going into Gallup, just right past the Department of Transportation buildings, that Route 54. I think it's about a mile or almost close to a mile from there. There is a road that goes up on the driver's side as you're going into Gallup. There's that hill that comes out, and they wanted to put those buildings on top of that hill. Mr. Honorable Chairman, Mr. McDonald, was adamant about getting these buildings on top of that hill. So we pinned the on-call engineers, Wilson and Company, went out to do some surveying, and they went to do some studies on top of the hill, and they gave us a report as to how much it's going to cost to do some legwork, the utilities and the like electricity, water line, sewer, placing the buildings up on top of the hill, and not the both buildings will be on top of the hill. We have two buildings on top of the hill right now. That's preliminary, and they'd like to have the Veterans Administration at the bottom of the hill. So those are the things that we've been working on with the project architect, and we did meet with them. We did go through their the map that they had sent us, and what we want to do is we want to meet with the association again. We need to have like approvals before we move on into the next step. We have currently a timeline that was given for this project, and we are behind schedule. One thing was that the land for this building that's owned by Code Talkers Association is a private land in the state of New Mexico. So those things need to be worked on. Land transfer needs to happen. the time was given back in last year that it probably will take a year to transfer the land over. But as of today, I'm not too sure how close we are in getting this the land transfer with Mr. Halona. This transfer of land needs to happen right away because most of the design will be for the building sitting on top of that hill. And if we don't have it, there has to be changes to the plans and stuff like that. We know that there is that pipeline, that water line that's be coming through. That might delay some of our construction work as the water line comes through. I'm not too sure when that's going to happen, but that's just one of the things that we were talking about. As of today, we're in November 2020, and we're supposed to have been at 60% design stage. But because of the pandemic, the COVID, and this unforeseen pandemic that happened, it has set us back in getting this project through. We are still at programming, at the end of programming stage. We need to get approvals of the site and the approvals of the cost estimate that was done for the utility work for the building to be on top of the hill. Those need to be approved. There's some talk got to happen as to the size of the building, the layout of the buildings on top of the hill. So those things still need to happen, and like Hope had said, our next meeting is December 2nd, I think it was. And we'll have another meeting, and hopefully we could have the association there or online to meet with us to get directions and approvals to continue to move on. Our next steps in the timeline is to have a contract, because these are task orders. The next task order is to approve for the design of the buildings. So that's what our next step is going to be in this timeline. So like I said, we could have been at 30% complete with the they call it construction documents. When you say construction document, it has the building plan, this building, the wall sections and all that good stuff. And it also has a booklet on the side where it has specifications to the building, what type of doors, what's the brand name and stuff like that. It's all put in that booklet specification. So all this would have been at 60% if we were if no pandemic had happened. So we continue to meet with Derek. We continue to give him calls and stuff for that. He gives us updates and stuff. They are reviewing that 400-page booklet and doing a preliminary design of the building. I haven't seen it yet, but they are working on it as of today. The land acquisition is very important to this building location. And we did reach out to Derek Meyer, Wilson Company, to give us an expenditure report, and they provided us one. The setup there for the payment is that the invoices are made. They are detailed expenditure reports, who worked on it, for how long, the set schedule, pay schedule for each and everybody. All that is included, even their expenditure report, traveling reports, all that is in there. That's given to INDOT, Mr. Arnold Jake and our Daniels. They put all that together, and then they give us a letter stating that these are the expenditures on the project, and they would like to have a project manager's their verification and a request for a signature from myself, from our architect Edward Preston, and our division director. So those that's how it's set up from us, and then we do sign these documents, and we send it back to the INDOT, and then from there they submit it to financial services. The last invoice was submitted back in May 1st, 2020, during the pandemic. There's another one that came in on May 26th, June 2025, July 29th, September 18th, and October 15th. Those things here, the invoices, I have not seen these. We usually, like I said, they send us a report and they send us a signature line to sign off on these things. But I haven't seen anything in my email. Going back on the history on my email, I haven't seen anything yet. So we do have some outstanding payments that we need to make, and it's around $52,000. I did talk with Arnold Jake, and yes, he said, yeah, we're having problems in payment out to the engineers, and they are working on it. And also here at our division, the person that was taking care of the paperwork, she had left our division, and the division is currently hiring a new personnel to work on these things. They has to go through reviews and checks, financial checks, and from there it's approved, and then our division director signs off on it. Then it goes back to INDOT for their payment to be made to be submitted to financial services. So that's what's going on. Yes, we are a little bit behind because of the pandemic, and during that time from May to September, I was not here. I was told to work at home, but I was always keeping up on the emails and stuff like that. If they do need me, then I have to come in. So I'm available, and it's just that this pandemic hit, and we had some hard times and rough times. So these things here, we'd like to catch up with them, and working with INDOT, we will catch up with the payments, and we'll move on to the next timeline, which is getting a design task order for this project. I know that we may think that, we're not spending that much money, but during the design, the price of the design will probably be somewhere around $400,000 to $500,000. Maybe even go beyond that. Usually, when you have when you get in the building, it's usually the price of the building and the price for the A&E services usually is 10% of the building cost. So in this case here, we are working on a medium building size, which is around $30 million, and 10% of that is around $3 million for the construction document. So right now, I think we are, in my estimate, that we are a little bit short on the funding to provide a design. But that's just those are just my comments. It might be different, but that's just what we have. When we deal with the A&E firms, it's usually 10%. And right now, right now we're working with $300,000 to $400,000 for a set of plans. I think I've covered most of everything. If you have questions, I'm here to answer your questions. Thank you for allowing me to give the report.
Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hardy. Shemaya, yes, you have the.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Oh.
Shiaja, Chairman So, and members of the committee. I apologize. I did not provide some of the background for this project. This project, the Navajo Code Talker Museum, which was and has been called by the Navajo Code Talkers who have been working on this for more than a decade, maybe a couple of decades. The Navajo Code Talker Association has been working on this project. They have called it the National Navajo Code Talker Museum, and they have been working to secure funding and working with all sources of assistance from across the nation. They were very happy that they were that the University of Arizona School of Architecture reached out to them several years ago and offered to do some of the preliminary planning for the Navajo Code Talker Association. They put together this large document that Leonard Hardy referred to, and they did a considerable amount of the preliminary work for the site. And when I refer to the site, the Chevron mining company donated approximately 240 acres to the Navajo Code Talker Association. They and that was again done, maybe nearly a decade ago, but several years ago for sure. And they had fully intended to donate it for the purpose of a museum and the code talkers to decide, what can be done on that piece of land. So the code talkers have been planning a museum and veterans center on that property. And and I want to qualify that, a veterans center. It was not intended to be the Veterans Administration building. It actually was considered to be a veterans center for all veterans to use. So they were diligently working on that. They were seeking funding and donations to start working on such a project. And because the late Senator John Pinto was a code talker himself, he was able to secure the $1.4 million from the New Mexico State Legislature. It was unfortunate that the funding, because it was government, could not go to a private organization. So the $1.4 million ended up at the Navajo Nation in the executive branch. And so that in itself created some new opportunities and new challenges for the Navajo Code Talkers, because the Navajo Code Talker Association had to depend on the Navajo Nation government and leadership, in this case, President Nez, to work directly with the Navajo Code Talkers and make sure that this is something that they are invested in for and on behalf of the Navajo Code Talkers. And so that has presented some challenges, as I want to emphasize. The pandemic has caused considerable delays, as mentioned by Mr. Hardy, but it really is going to be considerable work to continue to work on the site that the Navajo Code Talkers have designated and on their property. The land transfer is something that the Code Talkers have decided is something they are willing to do. That process has been delayed and is in itself is a bureaucratic process. So they are working with Mr. Halona directly to try to get that process expedited. The Veterans Center was part of this, supposed to be part of this campus. The Navajo Code Talker project was supposed to be together at the top of the hill on the Navajo Code Talker land. And there was disagreement from the president's office, and they wanted it on their piece of property at the bottom of the hill, and have now changed it from a campus style, which is a museum and veterans center on top of the hill, now to a Veterans Administration building at the bottom of the hill. That was not the original intent of the project, and when the $1.4 million came from the state, it was designated as the Navajo Code Talker Museum and Veterans Center together. And so if the committee had, if you wanted to take a look at the document that the Navajo Code Talker Association secured several years ago, that is available, and it's a large document, so we have it at the speaker's office. If any of the committee members want to have a copy or take a look at it, we'd be happy to share that with you. But our purpose from Speaker Damon and the office, as well as the 24th Navajo Nation Council, is that we want to make sure that the Navajo Code Talkers, at least the 4 remaining, and any of the descendants, have direct input on this museum that was supposedly intended for the education and awareness of the legacy that they leave for Navajo Nation and the United States, for everyone to learn about that and carry forward all of the lessons that were learned and the mark that they left here on Navajo. So we are very concerned about the lack of communication directly from President Nez with the Navajo Code Talkers, the lack of engagement. Speaker Damon has tried to schedule several meetings to have that direct communication on the intent of the building, and each time those meetings have failed, and President Nez has not participated. And as a matter of fact, the last one President Nez scheduled, he was a no-show, while the Code Talkers did show up. So that continues to be a challenge to make sure that they are working with those this was meant for, and that we are working together to make sure that Veterans Center is for all veterans, and it's not intended to be somebody's office building, but it is a Veterans Center for all Navajo veterans. And the meetings that we are trying to have are an effort to continue to bring people together and make sure that the Navajo Code Talkers who remain are involved in those meetings and that they have direct input. And so as the Office of the Speaker, through Speaker Damon, he continues to make sure that the remaining Code Talkers are involved in this project, and that there is input from the descendants, and that we want to make sure that that the initial intent of these buildings is met. So I will leave it there for questions, and I may have left out a couple other items, and I may remember them as we have this discussion, but I appreciate the time and the effort of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee and your oversight of our honored veterans, and especially our elder veterans and our Navajo Code Talkers. So thank you again, Chairman So, members of the committee.
Thank you, Shemaya, to Mr. Leonard Hardy. Mr. Hardy, if you would just, those items that you reviewed, give us a bullet point briefing so that we can use it as a resource as we go forward in our work or advocacy, as well as for assuring that there is proper usage of these funds. It is titled the appropriation. The intent and purposes was for the Coat Talker Museum. And I think if we deviate from that, then we are out of compliance with the appropriation. Committee members, any questions? It'd be proper if we did a motion and a second to adopt the report.
Delegate Slater, motion to accept the report.
Thank you, Cecilia. Honorable Vice Chair Carl Slater, motions to accept the report.
Second, Alona.
And Honorable Member Pernell Halona seconds. Committee members, any questions?
I have a question. This is Delegate Slater.
Yes, go ahead, Honorable Vice Chair.
Thank you. So, from my understanding of the presentation, the estimate for construction is over $10 million, and right now we're estimating a deficit in the design funds for the desired facility. Can we have a better accounting, or can that be provided to the committee on what that estimated deficit is, and maybe get a little more clarity on the estimated total construction and design costs? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Slater. Mr. Hardy, Otto Ramirez, Ms. Lone Tree.
Thank you, Chairman. So most definitely those documents can be provided to the committee. It was the initial intent of the Coat Talker Museum to be around $30 or $40 million. And so the design, yes, is about 10% of that. And that's definitely what we need to secure for the next step, is that design. I did want to also, in that regard, it's one thing to construct a beautiful museum in honor of our World War II heroes, Navajo Coat Talkers, but it's another to talk about operating costs now that this funding and project is at the Navajo Nation government. And it was the full intent for the Navajo Coat Talker Association to have this money secured directly so that they could do the planning and design and construction. But it was also their intent that the remaining area for that Coat Talker land be used for economic development. That economic development on that particular piece of land would sustain the operational cost of the museum and Veteran Center. So they had a dream about this museum in the Veteran Center, as well as that land that was donated to them from the Chevron Mining Company. And all of that is contained in the document, the large document that is at the Speaker's office. So I'd be happy to share that with you in another meeting, or we can provide a copy of that to the members who would like a copy. But yes, the design is going to be the next cost. There are people across the nation who want to participate in donations and contributions, including corporations, but that has yet to be done until we know for sure that this is going to be invested in for the Navajo Code Talkers and be for the original intent and purposes they had imagined and dreamed about. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Shemayas and Ms. Lone Tree. Committee members, any other discussion?
Chair, order.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair and committee members, Mr. Hardy and Mrs. Lone Tree, Lieutenant Lone Tree. Hope, that's A. Listen, I just had a couple of questions on the funding, the full funding for this project long down the road. Right now, we only got the 1.4 from that we're using from the Navajo Nation, the state of New Mexico. I thought the Navajo Nation was going to kick in $1 million again on that, but I haven't heard anything lately. That was several years back, a couple of years back, I think. But as far as the okay, as far as the funding to complete the project long term, what are the plans for that? I understand you were talking about donations. Has anybody tried to set up a GoFundMe page for the Navajo Nation Code Talkers and try to get some funding donations from around the country? I know that there's going to be a lot of, it's going to have to come, the funding is going to have to come from donations pretty much. That's the way I was told. But do you have any insights on that as far as where the next set of money is going to come from? You said you only had the 1.4 that you're working on from the state. Is there another lump sum that you know that's coming soon? There's my questions right there, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Helona. Shemayas, Ms. Hope McDonald Lone Tree.
Thank you, Chairman So, members of the committee, and certainly Delegate Helona. I really appreciate your question. Yes, before the pandemic hit, there were discussions and there was a directive, and I'll have to look through my notes, but for the controller or the president's office to figure out how donations could come to the Navajo Nation and into a special account for the bricks and mortar or the construction and design, or the design and construction of this museum and veterans center. And so that before the pandemic that happened, and since then, I don't believe there has been any further discussion. I think initially it was thought that there were going to be some challenges, but now that the pandemic has, we've gone through months now with the pandemic, we've also know that the Attorney General was able to set up a donation account for the COVID relief. So because of that, we know now that it can be done in some way or another, and that's going to be the next step, is to set up that account and make sure there's some accountability for it, whatever mechanisms will come with that, so that donations can come directly to that for the design and construction of this museum and veteran center. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Hope. I appreciate that. I'll be looking forward to more information going that way. Chair?
Thank you. Committee members, I guess what Honorable Helona highlighted, there are several other websites that can be used as fundraising. But Ms. Lone Tree, if we could do some legislative research, I know that when Senator Pete Domenici was chair of the Senate Budget Committee, They funded the National Hispanic Cultural Center in Albuquerque, funding through the Department of Interior. Let's see how that played out. The other is how did Congress fund the American Indian Museum in the mall in Washington, D.C. If we could put ideas together to accomplish that, I think maybe we could get a good national support within both houses to accomplish all the brick and mortar funds that need be, and the other items. And committee members, I at the start of our terms, I attended several of the Code Talker museums as well, Code Talker Association meetings on their ideas. And certainly to try to turn it into an administration building is way, way left field. Maybe I should say right field compared to what we had originally discussed with the Code Talker Association. So certainly it sounds like the committee has to provide some guidance. Committee members.
Chair, this is Elliot Slater.
Oh, Honorable Slater, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to express a couple of things and then ask a question. So the first is I've seen that 400-page or whatever the big book, the planning book, but I don't have a copy of it. I don't know if there's an electronic one that could be sent to us, but a hard copy would definitely be appreciated if it could be maybe put in the HES committee's boxes. That would really help me understand the sort of economic arguments for including such a large development, because I think it's a nice idea in theory, but you look at what just happened over the last few months. If the revenue that in theory would be generated, I guess, from rental income on the businesses that be located on the property and are meant to support the museum's operations, cease to exist. Like if we have another pandemic or some sort of catastrophic economic event, then, the operations go away. And I would like to have a better understanding of what sort of financial footing and operating costs the organization needs to be on in order to administer this. And then I don't know what sort of conversations there have been with the Navajo Nation Museum, but I think that they are excellent and would be valuable for all sorts of things, whether it's just bouncing ideas off, talking about operational costs, talking about, running a museum on the nation, what sort of foot traffic, et cetera, we could anticipate. But the site, as I understand it, and from what I've seen before, is far removed from the ordinary commerce of the Window Rock, San Benito, Mintmore region. And I think we need to be careful before trotting too far down that path, particularly having nonprofits that are organized to generate income. Is that is that the ownership of the group? Is that the ownership of the nation? What is the appropriate oversight for that funding and the museum more broadly? I think depending on the funding sources and how it moves forward, that can inform that conversation. The more it's integrated and driven by the government, I think the more reason there is to have some sort of government control or connection. And I'm not advocating one way or the other. But I think this should be a Code Talker Museum. I don't understand where this idea of administration and other stuff for veterans is coming in, and I don't support it. I'd prefer to see this explicitly and exclusively for our Code Talkers, and they have a unique place in United States history and in Navajo history that's worthy of such a recognition, and perpetuating this memory that brings forth all the values that they fought for is really important for our nation. And so my request, well, I think I've already made my request, and that is, for the booklet or for the planning document, and I'll stop there. No, sorry. I have one more request, and that is to Ms. McDonald-Monetree. What do you think is a good next step? Do you think that the committee or NABI should pass some sort of resolution to affirm the exclusivity of the space for a Code Talker Museum, or what do you think are some ideas? You don't have to commit to one or the other, but if you have any ideas right now that we could meditate on before moving forward. Thank you.
Good question, Vice Chair. Samaya is Lone Tree.
Thank you, Chairman. So, members of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your comments, questions, certainly support, and to Vice Chairman Slater, most definitely, we will get you copies of the large document that was put together by the University of Arizona School of Architecture with the full approval of Code Talkers several years ago, so we will get you a copy of that. In regards to good next steps, thank you very much for asking about that. I fully believe that as the governing body of the Navajo Nation, that your support, your vision for honoring our Navajo Code Talkers is very important, especially since you have put a priority on veterans issues and not only but you are totally engaged in these issues. So a resolution or legislation from NABI would be very helpful in setting not just the foundation, but the vision for this project as the Navajo Nation. So I would be happy to explore those ideas with HESI and provide you additional information. I know this is just a report and you have other reports you want to get to, so I'd be happy to provide that information at one of your next meetings, or we could have a special meeting just for this project and explore some of these ideas. Just keeping in mind, the Navajo Code Talkers Association over the past several decades were working entirely on their own. They had consultants here and there along the way, but they lacked the administrative office to really see this project through. So I don't know if that's something that is possible, to have a project office put together that would actually start coordinating the design and construction, but also to coordinate the donations that are coming in for the construction of the building as well. So there's a lot to consider, and I will make sure I say this to back to Speaker Damon, as well as the team together, including the Navajo Code Talkers, as we come back together to discuss where we are and get a status report. But please, Chairman So, members of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee, please let me know how I can continue to be of assistance on this matter and help you forge the set the standard and the vision for this project. So I appreciate again very much your comments and questions, and I will defer to you when you want to set a meeting on that, or what you want me to do in assisting the committee on this matter. But most definitely, I think a NABI resolution to set those set the vision and the standard would be very helpful in bringing people together and making sure that we are investing in this project for the Navajo Code Talkers and informing, educating our next generations on their importance in World War II. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Samaya. Committee members, any further comments or question discussion? If not, then Mr. Mose, roll call.
Chair, I have one more comment. Chair Halona.
Honorable Halona.
Yeah, just one more quick comment, Chair. I just thank you, Chair, committee members, and Ms. McDonald Longtree and Mr. Hardy. I was just curious, thinking about that. Has there been anything started? You know, because we get the building together. Has there been a stockpile of memorabilia been started to somewhere, a collection that's going to be put in the museum? And if it has, where can people contact the location to donate memorabilia for that, or to I guess they were talking about they might want to have a storytelling location there of some sort. Those kind of things. Is there have they started anything like that for the museum? Sure.
Thank you for the question. I'm sure everybody wants to, and especially the descendants, they want a special portion for their relative. I'm sure that can happen quickly, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's get this building up. Let's build a museum. And those finer details of the memorabilia can certainly be worked out. Committee members, let's go forward with the vote. Mr. Mose.
All right, sir. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Honorable Carl Russell Slater.
Doug Slater, green.
Honorable Carl Russell Slater votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Charlene So.
I vote green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Edison J. Wanika. Honorable Edison J. Wanika. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Chair, a vote of 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hardy, Ms. Lone Tree. I'm sure the full committee is supportive of the ideals that have been put forward in accepting this report. It's just the connectivity with this new line that we've instituted as far as maybe the problem we're experiencing right now. But let the record show a vote of 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 members not voting, and the chair not voting. Thank you. Samayas, Ms. Lone Tree, and then Mr. Hardy, if you could provide documents regarding the bullet point briefing summary on the steps that you've taken to get this project this far. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman
Okay,
So, members of the committee.
Now that takes us to the next item on our agenda, which is report from Navajo Hopi Family Relief Fund. Ms. Ethel Branch, you have the conference floor.
Ahead. Yat Eshinet Ani She Ethel Branch and She Bean Pachwatni Nishla Nakai Bashishi Najini Dashiche Nakai Dashanella Akut Ego Dines Nashle Kintana Ke Hashte Fizizi Denasha Ahead. Thank you for allowing me to present, especially since I wasn't on your original agenda and I know you're all extremely busy. I gave one update report to you previously, and so this is my second report. So just a reminder on our organization and our objectives. Our objective is to flatten the curve of COVID-19 in our community. And we work on that both on the Navajo Nation as well as the Hopi Reservation. And we've primarily sought to flatten the curve by providing 2 weeks worth of food, PPE, and essential items to our community members. Our target beneficiaries are folks who are at highest risk of adverse consequences if they contract COVID. So that's primarily our elders who are 65 and older, and those who have underlying conditions, which, one of the underlying conditions being diabetes, and that, so many of our community members have underlying conditions. We also focus on struggling families, sort of in recognition of the high unemployment rates on the nation and loss of jobs with closure of power plants and whatnot. So we also seek to serve families that have children but may not have adequate income. We also seek to serve the mobility impaired. And by providing 2 weeks worth of food, our hope was to ensure that our community members would have the things that they need to stay home successfully for 2 weeks, so they could know that they weren't exposing their family or themselves to COVID-19 during those 2 weeks, which of course is very stressful, knowing that there's a prevalence of this in our community. And so people could be home and wouldn't have to search for the things that they need either in stores on the nation or in the off-reservation communities. As you know, some of the items, as things surge, some things are very difficult to get. And so we wanted to make sure people had the things that they needed to safely isolate and protect their families. And so the other benefit of providing 2 weeks worth of food is that it allows our beneficiaries to work through the cycle of symptoms if they've actually contracted COVID and don't realize that. And so that helps prevent community spread by, having them stay home and go straight to the hospital rather than having to be out looking for food or the essential items that they need, like medical items, adult diapers, things like that. So that's our charge. And then an update on our operations. So far we've spent, we've successfully raised over $7 million at this point. And we've spent over $5.2 million in just direct relief purchases alone. We're still firming up these numbers with our accountants, but that is sort of like where we are right at this moment. And most of those purchases of direct relief have been food related. We've deployed over $4 million in direct purchase of food that we include in our kinship care packages. And we've also deployed over $500,000 in PPE in our communities through direct purchases that were included in the kinship care packages as well. And then recently, we deployed about $200,000 worth of PPE that we're handing out in PPE kits at Bash's locations, Bash's Dene locations, and we have another $600,000 worth of that that we'll be deploying over the course of the next 6 weeks. And each week of operations since April 13th, we've been able to bring about $150,000 to $200,000 worth of direct relief to our communities. And we typically do 15 to 20 distributions every week on Navajo and Hopi. This week we have 17 distributions that are occurring, and these occur all over the Navajo Nation. We have 77 team leads, and then we also have 33 very active distribution teams. Some of our distribution teams do 2 or 3 distributions a week, and they serve multiple communities. In terms of our shamrock purchases alone, that's primarily where we buy our food. We've spent over $1.2 million in central agencies. That's about 34% of our expenditures with Shamrock. We spent over $1 million in Western Agency. That's about 28% of our Shamrock purchases. We spent $750,000 in Fork Science Agency, about 21%. $250,000 in Eastern Agency, about 8%, and almost $200,000 at Hopi, which is about 4%. We have, lots of help requests. We have over 10,000 help requests from Navajo and Hopi community members. Most of our Navajo help requests are from the Chinle area, which, if you're tracking the map of where the cases are in the IHS region, Chinle has the highest number of cases accumulated over time during this pandemic. So we feel very good about allocating most of our resources to that region. And then we've also been very successful in routing donations to community members. For example, we facilitated the transfer of 73,441 masks, surgical gowns, bunny suits, and booty covers to Navajo and Hopi community members as well as first responders. And the vast majority of those donations have been cloth masks, and some of them have been sewn by our volunteer team. We have about 300 volunteer seamstresses that we can send fabric to, and they return the masks or the bunny suits fully formed, and then we get those out to our distribution teams. And those folks are mostly on Navajo Nation, but they're from all over the country, really. And then we have just so many partners in that in general. And then in terms of other direct relief donations, we were able to distribute 48,000 cans of donated water from Jason Momoa's water company. We've shared 8 tons of canned water with community members donated by Canned Aid. We've also moved over 48,000 pounds of PPE and other relief items to remote communities as part of a collaborative effort with AirServe International. We were their first domestic operation. They normally operate overseas in developing nations. We did this over the course of 24 flights. The cargo included 37 hand washing stations for families that don't have running water, and most of the other items were water, hand sanitizer, and cleaning supplies. And we provided PPE in our kinship packages since inception, which means most, if not all, of the 38,000 households we've served have received PPE. And then, as I mentioned, recently we deployed a PPE kit distribution model. In the first week of October, we were able to serve 5,000 households by providing them with a kit that contains 50 of the 3-ply masks, an 8-ounce hand sanitizer bottle, and a container of 75-count Clorox wipes. And we're going to be continuing this program in collaboration again with Bashas Dene by distributing an additional $600,000 worth of these kits, which should serve an additional 36,000 households. And then we also have been developing COVID isolation kits. These are for families that have a case of COVID in the household. We budgeted for 250 of those, and we have 125 in deployment right now with placement in 10 communities so that when we get calls for help, we have the supply located nearby. I will say that we've been trying to get more of the help requests from the COVID positive families, and it's been difficult. You know, the most successful instances were when we had our first cases in Chimbotoa, and the chapter manager reached out to us and let us know what they needed, and we were able to deploy resources very quickly and hand off to the Navajo Nation's team to make sure those families got what they needed. And then the other really successful instance was in White Cone when there was a large number of cases there. We worked with the chapter and were able to send in, you know, isolation kits, tents, things that the community members needed to protect their families. But since then, we've had more isolated requests for help. In October, we received 6 help requests from 6 families that had a case of COVID. In November, we've received 13 requests so far, which is almost 1 request per day. And so we're keeping up with that. And then we also have an elder coal program in deployment right now. We're going to be combining distribution of bags of coal with some of our food distribution. That's underway. We also have a public education campaign underway, which you may have seen examples of this. There are posters in our communities and gas stations, chapter houses. We've been running full-page ads in the Navajo Times with this material, and it's delivered in a sort of a cartoon style so that kids will be more receptive to it. It's colorful. Hopefully, you know, elders and everyone in our community finds it interesting and educational. So we have content right now, either in deployment or in process, in design process, for a COVID 101 page, and then one on proper hand washing technique, one on proper mask selection, use, and care, one that describes the difference between COVID-19, the cold, and the flu, one on what to do if you're diagnosed with COVID-19, another one on proactive preventative measures regarding COVID-19, and then we're also in production on one on how to protect your mental health in the face of the pandemic in our community. So we're also going to be launching a coloring contest to further engage children on this subject and to hopefully ensure that our community continues to educate themselves on how to protect their families from COVID. We're also working on this content for Hopi. And in general, we're starting to look a lot more at kid-related resources because as we go into the winter, you know, things are getting really stressful right now. You know, kids can't just go outside and be alone. And if they're in a crowded household, as many of our community members are, you know, it's just very stressful with the economic impacts on our families, parents having to essentially be teachers and trying to figure out how to do online learning. So we want to give kids an option, like books to read, activity kits, art supplies. So we're looking at trying to pull together those donations and get that out there. In terms of other statistics, you know, we've brought significant response infrastructure to our communities. We've brought 15 industrial-sized refrigerators to our communities, as well as 12 industrial-sized freezers. So one of our impediments in doing distributions at the local level has been the lack of this infrastructure. And so we just, you know, we were able to find funding for this. So we brought these items in. We also managed to bring in 5 ice machines, a number of pallet jacks, and just equipment for the teams to do their work successfully, like material to sterilize items with and to facilitate the food distribution. Our capital equipment purchases alone have amounted to over $65,000 in purchases. And yeah, and as I mentioned, you know, we have 77 volunteer team leads, 33 very active teams, and we have 6 staff members. So we're doing really great work, but I will say we are almost out of funds for food distribution. So right now, based on the funds we have available, we probably can't do food distributions just the way we have been doing previously after the second week of December. We probably will have to scale back, either stopping them altogether or serving only the COVID positive households. So we are launching a fundraising campaign relating to that right now. We have Giving Tuesday that is occurring in a couple weeks, so we're going to be focusing on that. We're reaching out to our existing donors to see if we can bring in some additional funding. Our projection is that we're going to need the help is going to be needed until at least the end of June, and that's when we anticipate there will be a vaccine, a safe vaccine that's widely available in our community. But at the very least, we want to make it through the end of March. That way we make it through the end of the cold and flu season. And our estimated need and capacity for spending and deploying resources is about $1 million a month, which means to sort of close the gap between the middle of December and the end of March, we're going to be fundraising for $3.5 million. And then if we want to make it to the end of June, we'll be fundraising for $6.5 million. In the meantime, we're going to continue to do our PPE distribution that I mentioned, the 6 weeks worth of that, as well as providing assistance to those who are COVID positive. We should be able to do that at least through January, depending on available funding. And then, if we end up having to wrap up our relief work in December or January, what we'll probably do is start transitioning to long-term work. So we've formed a nonprofit, Yay Ha'al Nido, which, may our community have fortitude. And we're going to be focusing on how we make our community pandemic proof for the long term, which also is tied to ensuring that our community is climate change resilient, because there are a lot of parallels to how this pandemic is impacting us and how climate change can impact us. One of our key initiatives that we're going to launch after COVID relief is the development of community centers that will essentially be innovation hubs to continue empowering our people to help themselves through economic development. So that's been one of the really amazing things about the work that we've done, being able to empower local leaders at the grassroots level, local community level, and help them help their communities and find their own solutions to meeting the needs of their community members. And so we want to continue that work with these community centers, which will include lots of different things. Some things that will continue the food security work that we've been working on, maybe establishing local food pantries, including a library space and a computer lab / business center space, so that small business owners have a resource like good printers, fax machines, things like that, good high-speed internet connection, an indoor vendor space, essentially like an indoor flea market, some shared workspaces like conference room spaces that small business owners can use, a performance venue. But anyway, that's kind of like our thinking in terms of next steps on where we're going to focus our energy after we wrap up our relief work. And so that's kind of an update on where we are. In terms of things that we would love to get help from the committee on, would be, letters of support, either from individual delegates or from the committee itself that we could attach to, a request for funding to donors. And then, if you have ideas on fundraising for us, potential donors, we would be very interested in that. And then also, if you have ideas on governmental resources that could be utilized to help us continue doing our work, we were really hoping to be able to help chapters be able to secure continued funding for chapter level food distributions, but we really haven't been able to figure that out. But we are available, we've let the chapters know we're available as a resource. We've been able to identify vendors that can provide things very quickly. One of the big issues right now is there's such high demand all across the country for like refrigerators and pallet jacks and PPE. And so we've been able to identify low cost and quickly available suppliers. But anyway, that's it. That's my update on where we are. And then we also have a number of other team members on the call So if you don't mind, I'd like for them to just introduce themselves and say hello. And then if the team members have anything they want to add to this presentation that you feel like the committee should be aware of, please add your quick point. Thank you.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Cassandra Begay. I am the Deputy Director for the Navajo and Hopi Families COVID-19 Relief Fund. I'm from Tuba City, Arizona, and it's been an honor doing this work to help our community and being able to have such a big impact. And it's been an honor working with Ethel. She has really stepped forward courageously and bravely to bring resources during this difficult time to our community. And so I'm just really glad I can work along her as well as our other relatives and being able to create jobs and opportunities for our community members to really step up and help their fellow community members. So in that way, it's been really beautiful and nice to see that we're picking ourselves up by our own bootstraps to be able to help ourselves and help each other through this pandemic. And as Ethel mentioned, we are in a situation right now where unfortunately we will have to close our food distribution around the mid-December if we don't come up with substantial funding to continue this. We would love to welcome any collaboration or partnership with, chapter officials, with, others in the government to be able to continue doing this work and through be able to continue this work until we have access. It would be very unfortunate if we would not be able to continue the food distribution. As Ethel mentioned, we've been providing over $100,000 worth of food weekly for months, and this really helps our community members not have to expose themselves. We're providing PPE, and this means that they don't have to expose themselves as much to the nearby border towns or the grocery stores. So thank you all for taking the time today to meet with us. Again, my name is Cassandra Begay. I'm the Deputy Director with the Relief Fund, and it's been an honor to do this work. For all of us, we work very tirelessly. It's very stressful. We're under a lot of pressure every day to help protect and save lives. I really welcome the opportunity. I welcome the opportunity to work together with the administration and our relief so that we can continue to do this work. Sorry, I got emotional. It's been a tough 8 months. And I worry a lot about, more people are gonna die. And more people are gonna get COVID. And so I just want to say, let's put our heads together and think of ways to go into partnership or collaboration so that we can continue to be a resource to our community members who really need our help in this time. And with that's all I have to share today. And I just want to say thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Branch and Ms. Begay. Committee members, do I have a motion to accept the report?
Motion to accept report.
Motion, Delegate Slater.
Motion by Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Slater, do you second? Kushila. Committee members, any questions or statements regarding what has been presented to the committee.
That would be Paul Begay.
Oh, Chache, Honorable Paul Begay, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. Presenters, just a very quick, a very big thank you for what you do for our Navajo people, Ms. Branch, Ms. Begay, and then your whole group with the relief of during this COVID-19 period with all the food. Just a big, wholehearted thank you, Chair.
So, Sheila,
Thank you.
and I guess the main thing is please convey to the volunteers, the ones that are doing the actual distribution. They don't have a chance to address a body of the Navajo Nation Council such as you've done. But please convey to the young folks, thank them for their energy, their dedication, they probably they get tired physically, spiritually, they're trying to also believe in the good aspects of humanity, humankind. And I'm sure their mental health is stressed also. But please relay that the committee certainly endears what they're doing. We can't be there every step of the way, but the young folks, the volunteers, the ones that are distributing the relief items, they're the backbone. They're the real bone structure of your organization, and they're the muscle of your organization. We thank them. We appreciate what they're doing. Please express gratitude to them on our behalf. Committee members, anybody else?
Yate, Shay, Mary Frances Yanshia. Shay, my job with the organization is distribution coordinator. Chiyanagi, dahil niho, we send them to the different communities. Okoho, don't initially yeah, I touch it in the slido top of brushes chain, look at the shade out Island, the Shinale, Besha, get those up in there in Nasha. Okay, yet honorable chairman, so though distinguished members of the committee, if you have just giving us the opportunity that's to share a report of you see na ishna Nihimasane don hitchedon himasane da bakane jahdo and that tiki you see he had it he cut in that jah ado sani nihinat ani that egin yansita keso hajo el ketsen lo alla jono al ket han den hallo non-nish idil, okay, Nikidon, Adeko, thank you for listening to our report. And you see, Henson. So, Hadate out and Jono, Skin Dale Nisho, Banda de Lishtats, Oko, AD Shin we're hoping to do that. Oko. Kodige alt, so this and so, Oko, yeah.
Hakushila, Miss Francis. Bizarsheen, the shade, send the kin and snow. Miss Elchine, Bossisheen, Christian, the shade, now farm, the Sonala. What, yeah.
Oh,
this minute, that. In the Craggy, so you see, the league each of the the same to a hearing to Nigi sing, young guitar, the Nigi, the same to hate and the same. I thought, but you that here, Copenhagen, say, to nasty. Yeah, that's Badahan neto, badahan neto. Digit away. Ada Ilya. Natin. Yahata need only naste. That'll be their story. That'll be Navajo story, Navajo history. Yate. We thank you, all of you, Ms. Branch, Ms. Lee, Ms. Francis. Thank you for doing what you do. You're doing something that the government is trying to do, but you're doing it way in a different manner. Thank you. Committee members.
Shana, Teresa, later.
Go ahead, Cecilia.
Thank you very much to the presenters and committee members. I have a couple questions. I know that you had a fiscal agent. I don't know the whole timeline. I haven't been able to stay engaged with everything as much as I'd like to. I think your organization's doing a great job. But I'm talking about the financial future of this effort and what it's grown into. That's what I want to hear a little bit more about. And my understanding was you had a fiscal agent and then you lost the fiscal agent. And I also understand that you were creating a nonprofit under which would house this particular effort. And I wanted to know a little bit more if my understanding is true, and then if it is, what your vision is for that nonprofit and what sort of work it would do. I guess just to start off, that's what I'd like to hear. Thank you very much.
I have Delegate Slater. Yes, we started out with the Rural Utah Project as our fiscal agent. Unfortunately, none of us knew that we were going to be so successful at raising funds and being able to expend funds quickly. And so a few months into our relationship, they kind of reached an administrative ceiling in terms of the time they could spend helping us facilitate transactions. And so we ended up transitioning from Rural Utah Project as our fiscal sponsor to nonprofit fiscal services. They're a law firm, nonprofit legal services of Utah, that does business as nonprofit fiscal services. So they can do both the legal stuff as well as serve as a fiscal sponsor. And through their sponsorship, we get treatment as a 501c3. And so that's who our current fiscal sponsor is, and they're doing a really great job of it. And then in the meantime, we've put together our 501c3 application. Unfortunately, I mean, because we've had to kind of like, the cart is before the horse. We've had some delays, like the name of our operation right now is Navajo and Hopi Families COVID-19 Relief Fund, but the name of the organization that we're forming, the nonprofit, is Ye Ha'olnivo. And so we've had to do some administrative things like set up a DBA for Ye Ha'olnivo as Navajo and Hopi Families COVID-19 Relief Fund, so that we can use either name interchangeably and it all relates to the same entity. And then we've also had to modify the spelling of our name, our Navajo spelling. So that has added an additional delay because we've had to update that name spelling with the IRS before we submit the 501c3 application. That's what the IRS advised us to do. And so we're awaiting that process right now. And as soon as we get that confirmation of the name change, then we'll be able to submit that application. And then hopefully, we get an approval letter, and then we'll have the 501c3 treatment directly. And then, so that's some background on where we are in that process. So yes, it is true, we are forming a nonprofit, and that is the entity that's doing the relief response work. And in terms of our long-term vision, we have, as I mentioned before, pretty ambitious goals in terms of long-term change, working to make our community pandemic-proof for the long term, as well as resilient to climate change. And so that has, the underlying issues that have put our community in this situation are extensive and include lots of things like housing security, well, number one, food security, housing security, lack of access to electricity or running water, so water security, what I would think of as energy security, just from an individual family perspective. So we want to work on all of those things. We can't work on all of them at once, just due to our capacity and funding. So what we've decided to do is focus on economic security with these community centers, where it can be like a hub for innovation, hopefully basically a laboratory for Navajo entrepreneurs to have access to the resources they need, whether that's a brick and mortar site or a business center, fax machines, printers, high-speed internet access, conference space, performance space. So that's kind of our initial step. We really wanted to work on the housing issue, but that's just kind of, it's such a specialized area and it's such a big thing to take on that it was a little overwhelming to transition to that as our next step. And so, with the community centers, we can continue to work on food security through those centers, as I mentioned, creating space for a food pantry, farmers market, vending space, those sorts of things. So that seemed like a more natural transition, something that we could undertake more quickly as we develop expertise and learn more about the housing challenge and how we might approach that as a nonprofit. So hopefully that was helpful background, but those are our ambitions, and that's kind of like a short-term timeline as well as a mid-term timeline in terms of working on economic security / food security with the community centers, and then building out to taking on the housing security challenge. And then, of course, building in those other things like water security and energy security. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Branch. Committee members, any follow-up?
Chair, can I ask a follow-up?
Go ahead, Honorable Slater.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Branch, for explaining where y'all are going. I guess I didn't extend my appreciation in my first round of comments. So thank you very much. From the bottom of my heart, and your crews that have been working in Rough Rock and Save the Wheat Fields have had a tremendous impact, I think, on the security from COVID of many households. And, you know, we're seeing this new list, I think, of 55 communities. Save the Wheat Fields and Rough Rock are not on there right now. Rock Point and Round Rock are on there, sadly. And I'd like to think that credit is due to your volunteers and the tireless effort that they put forth with Gwinnett College to deploy, and then Rough Rock Community School and efforts of Ms. Gray Eyes to get an organization standing up there, or Dr. Gray Eyes. I asked about the future of your organization because I think it's incredible what you've been able to get together so quickly, and I believe that there's the funding that you spoke about, the $7 million or so. I don't know if there's other funding that's come in from other people who maybe are more interested in the organizational side and less on the fund side, and seeing something grow from this effort. But I think, when I look at the nonprofit landscape and the needs of the Navajo people right now, our civil society is one area that I think is really lacking, and a big part of that is public policy. We don't have a lot of organizations that operate independent of either industry or other constituencies. And because of that, I can't look to one organization and say, well, that's the people's voice, or that represents the people's voice in a particular area. There's a lot of really small ones that don't have, I think, the financial resources that you have. And my ask to you is that as you move forward with your team, that you consider this area. The solutions that I'm sure you want to offer will be informed by that. But I hope that they aren't developed in isolation, or they're insulated from the government. I think a lot of them, have government implications, and we need to figure out how to work together, whether it's under this administration or in the administration down the line. There's a lot that you can bring to the table, and I think a lot of us recognize that. But we at council need people who can write legislation that aren't our office, our legislative council, that aren't DOJ or some lobbyist or hanger-on at the council chamber. We need people who are extended into the grassroots, who have vision of what things look on the outside, what we can use to enhance our way of life, and how we can reimagine that in the 21st century. And so each of those issue areas that you spoke about are incredibly interrelated. And so much of it comes back to, what is the economic vision of the nation? Where are we going to grow? And physically, like geographically, where are we going to grow? What is land tenure going to look like? All of these different things. So I sincerely ask that that becomes a part of your organization's vision, and that it's not how I've seen many groups operate. They approach the government, get rebuffed, don't go anywhere, and then are embittered by that experience and don't end up finding these sorts of meaningful connections that really, it's like cutting granite. You got a granite quarry, and I know this is pretty foreign to a lot of the geography here on Navajo. Maybe you could say sandstone too, but you just got to keep pounding away, and you got to be methodical. And we're going to have leadership that will be able to engage with your organization in the future. We have some now. And I just think this is a really unique opportunity to have such a well-funded group be able to provide direct relief, but also have in its possession a bunch of, I think, really good thinkers. So I've been talking for way too long, but yeah, again, and it'd be great to have some conversations offline. I know you all are immensely busy, and you've been responsive to me when I was trying to get turkeys for our senior centers and seeing if you guys had any hookups with Shamrock. Luckily, we were able to find another one and get some turkeys through another source, eventually through Shamrock and also through Walmart. So I appreciate all the little things that you do for us. Thanks.
Thank you for all of that, Delegate Slater. Yeah, no, we don't plan to go away anytime soon. We kind of feel like, our Navajo Nation government has been struggling with these longstanding infrastructure challenges and development challenges for almost a century now. And, we haven't, as a government, been able to overcome those challenges. And so we want to add something like a nonprofit angle to the group of workers who are taking on those challenges to see if we can help make some headway from the nonprofit sector side of things. And so, we feel like this next century, we can't let this next century go by without having made substantial progress. It's just not fair to anyone. It's not fair to our people and our future generations. So we very much plan to continue chipping away at this until we have some success. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Branch. Committee members, we also welcome Honorable Delegate Amber Knezbach-Crotty Samayaza. Thank you for joining the call, as well as Cecilia, Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Samayaza, did you want to address the group, and Cecilia, Honorable Nathaniel Brown?
Thank you, committee members, and I appreciate the report. Chair, if there's a written report, I would respectfully ask if the advisor can forward the report to myself and my staff. The question that I wanted to ask was regarding some type of equity. So in Northern Agency, could you provide, what does that landscape look like in providing service to the Northern Agency, and where should we expect some of these initiatives, like where are those conversations happening at in Northern Agency or on the New Mexico side? We have, so I'm sponsoring the Healthy Diné Nations Act. It was just approved at RDC, so I appreciate their vote. And part of that initiative is receiving tax dollars for unhealthy food. And so I just want to see what the landscape looks like and where there's room for partnership and coordination. And so that would be my question, Chair, to Ms. Brent. I appreciate the response. Thank you.
Ms. Brent?
Honorable Delegate Crotty. This is something that we've struggled with, whether it's Northern Agency or Eastern Agency. It's been extremely challenging to just even establish distribution sites in those areas. Northern Agency is not as much of a challenge. I don't have a written report on this, but the numbers that I have for Northern Agency is let me see. I must have put a typo in here regarding Northern Agency. Give me 1 second. I have a graph that our accountants prepared that shows where the allocation of resources has been. So let me just pull that up really quickly. And I can get you the number for Northern Agency. Oh, here it is. Okay. Yes. Okay. Northern Agency is almost $200,000, that's actually the lowest expenditure, whereas Eastern Agency is about a little over $250,000. So with Northern Agency, we have a site at Diné College, but we've had some challenges with getting that site insured. So we've actually just switched back to event insurance for Diné College sites until we can get the general, coverage for our various locations. So that's been one challenge there. We do have a very active distribution site in Upper Fruitland, maybe, I don't know if Mary has an update on this. I know we've been trying to get the ShipRack site online. I think it will be ready in 2 weeks. And then we've just had some headway recently with, I believe it's Sheep Springs being able to serve maybe 3 or 4 communities in the region. And then we've also had a team lead step forward that can cover that. I think it's in collaboration with Sheep Springs, but it's on the 491 corridor. So we're poised to have a lot more activity in Northern Agency. And then I'm actually kind of surprised at the number because I know that extends into Utah, and we have a decent amount of distribution activity on the Utah side. So again, these numbers are just kind of preliminary. I need to go in and firm them up and make sure the details correct on the various, we have a delivery site, and then we also have distribution sites. So like one delivery site might be serving 6 different communities. So I just need to go in and confirm that detail in terms of where the food's actually being delivered to make sure I have these numbers firm. And then for Eastern Agency, we're in discussions with a group in the Twin Lakes area. One of our barriers, we were almost maybe a couple months ago, were able to work with Standing Rock chapter, which I understand serves, I believe it's 13 other communities in the region. We really wanted to work with them because they have the capacity at the ground level to be able to facilitate these distributions, but we couldn't get our food distributor to deliver to Standing Rock. The closest they would get us was Crown Point. And we just couldn't figure out a way to connect, like move the stuff from Crown Point to Standing Rock. One of our biggest challenges is just logistics, but we've been able to identify, this week actually, we identified a food producer or supplier rather that will actually deliver to some of the locations we need. So I'm hoping they'll also deliver to Standing Rock, but for sure they should be able to do some deliveries right along 491. Our existing distributor also was not able to do that. So that's a little bit of update. In terms of equity, the donations were not made to particular regions. So we've just, allocated resources. There's a need everywhere on the nation. And we're not able to meet the need, even with the level of work that we're doing right now. And so, I didn't want to just hold back resources when I know that there's a need in a community, and then there's, volunteer capacity and leadership on the ground willing to facilitate distributions and the ability to bring in the food on the distributor side. So we've just kind of, worked very dynamic and tried to move forward as many distributions as possible in as many places as possible. And, where there were resources, either, local leadership or the ability to deliver stuff to a particular site, we've moved forward with that and try to do so as quickly as possible, knowing that, people's needs don't just kind of remain in standby. These are ongoing needs. And so we've just worked to try to allocate as many resources as possible to our community at large, whether that's Navajo or Hopi, rather than, withhold resources and have it sit and be unspent for a particular region that, just doesn't have the capacity to allocate those resources. Another thing that we had in motion, we did some recruiting to hire staff. That's another issue. Some communities don't have as many volunteers. So we were in motion to hire a bunch of staff in a number of regions on the nation. And our objective with that staff would be to have each team, we were going to have 4 or 5 teams and have each team doing 1 or 2 distributions a week, serving those communities where there isn't volunteer capacity, and boxing the food at a distribution site and then trucking that to the local community and conducting the distribution at that local level. That was our solution, essentially, to bringing more equity to the communities. But unfortunately, with where we are with funding right now, we're having to kind of rethink that a little bit. I am very hopeful that we'll be able to bring in additional funding soon, but I just wanted to, let it be known that the funding may not be forthcoming, and if it's not, then we'll have to, retract our level of activity in the COVID response efforts. So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you.
So tell it, Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Okay, I was talking away. I just unmuted myself. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Shana, Chair, Health Education and Human Services Committee. Thank you, Ethel, Experience, for your report. And it's great to hear from you as well, Cassandra. But what I'm interested in is, I know the chapters, they only have literally 2 days to spend their funding. But in the future, I know you have made considerable contact with companies. And also, well, before that, my question would be, what have you seen that our Navajo people are requesting for their household? I'm really interested in individuals' homes without running water, electricity, basic infrastructure. What are they requesting that, moving forward, using CARES Act, and then even with the new leadership that's going in at the federal level, if we were to get more funding to combat COVID in the future, I think collaboration with a lot of the groundwork that you and your organization have already done would be instrumental on some of the securing the contracts. I know PPEs you mentioned, forklifts, and there's other supplies that are in demand. And I think those are good to know, so we can, as a nation, maybe start ordering them. And then what I'm requesting also is, have you made any contact on those portable hand washing stations? If so, if you can share the information so we can forward the information to our chapters. And then for the future as well, I think we have a great opportunity to collaborate right here and see what our people are asking for. So I'm really interested in that. And again, I know it's hard work. I've seen your volunteers out there in my communities coming to Chochimbito, Denahutso, Kayenta, and our volunteers. And I think because of your efforts, we had a lot of our Denahutso boarding school youth. Currently, they're nurses in Phoenix, the Red House Atakai family, who actually stepped up and are volunteering. 2 days ago, I was loading wood with them in Denahutso, Chef Brian Yazzie, also watching your work. You know, working with Central Kitchen has brought resources to the Navajo Nation as well. And there's so many people. And the good part of, the only thing that I've seen from COVID, the good thing is that it has showed how much heart our people and our youth have, that they are taking time out of their lives, their busy lives. There's one individual from Denahoto, Dre Hoshnick, that her heart was profoundly for her people, that she lost her job and she lost her apartment. She chose to volunteer and to haul these essentials back for our people. So, looking forward, I wish that we as leadership can use some of these CARES Act funding to, even pay, because she's definitely impacted. And that's the type of work that you all have paid for Navajo people. And so I'm watching, and I see you guys, and I do really appreciate, because I've seen when we deliver food boxes, no contact, that the smile on people's faces is like there's no amount of money that you can pay for that. And our elders that are smiling ear to ear, and when they say and that's all that we would need. So thank you, Shana, Chair, and committee members.
Thank you. Thank you, committee members, other colleagues. We appreciate your input. And back to Ms. Branch.
Honorable Chairman, and Honorable Delegate Brown. I really appreciate hearing your input and your questions. We would love to be able to help the chapters connect them with resources. We actually sent a flyer out at the end of October, letting them know that we were available as a resource and giving them contact information. And I'm going to present my response, and then I don't know if Mary Frances is still on the line, and if she has any input she can provide in terms of the requests we've received to our offer to help the chapters. But in terms of what I've seen people requesting for their households, Clorox wipes are huge. Just those things to sanitize and clean spaces with. I think our community has to be extremely mobile, because you have to drive somewhere to get to anything, whether it's your job or a place to buy things. And so, keeping their vehicles sterile and being able to sanitize shopping carts or whatever, the Clorox wipes or the alcohol wipes are very, very helpful with respect to that. And it's really hard to get those right now. So that has always been a high demand item. And so that's why it was so important to us to include those in our PPE kits that we're handing out over the next 6 weeks. And then just cleaning supplies in general also are in high demand, as well as hygiene products like the hand washing stations in particular. For example, we have a request from Black Mesa for 100 of those, and we're working to fulfill that request. And then in terms of a supplier, we don't have right now, Walmart is probably the best supplier. They're selling them at less than $100, which is a much better price. At one point, I think it was at $150, either there or Home Depot. I wish I knew of a better source, and we're going to be doing some additional resource on that as we're gearing up to purchase these 100 hand washing stations. And I'm happy to share that information as I learn it. But again, also, as well as the cleaning supplies and hygiene products, PPE is also huge. And then at the chapter level or the distribution level, Absolutely. I mean, it's very difficult to find a site that has a forklift. And we usually rely, like in terms of what we've purchased, pallet jacks have been really helpful, but they're not as helpful as a forklift could be. And a forklift is something that every chapter should have. And then also refrigerators. I was very surprised that chapters didn't have as sort of standard equipment large size refrigerators or freezers. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we've had to bring in 15 freezers and 12 refrigerators. Let me double check to our communities. 12 freezers and 15 refrigerators, as well as 5 ice machines. The ice machines are really, really important during the summer because, you know, you can tell people stay home for 2 weeks, but if they don't have electricity, like my mom doesn't have electricity, and so basically like every day she had to go get ice in order to keep her her perishable items cold, right? So if someone has to leave their home to get ice that regular, that kind of defeats any effort to keep them home. So having an ice machine at the chapter level with chapters able to disseminate ice in a contactless method, I think would be really, really important for communities where there's a high number of people who don't have electricity. And let's see, I did not know that Drea was in that situation, so thank you for that update. She's one of our superstar volunteers, and she drives all the way from Phoenix to lead the distribution in her community. And I honestly don't think the distributions would happen in Danahosa if it were not for Drea. So we're extremely thankful for the work that she does. I wish we were in a position to hire. Hopefully we will be soon because, you know, we'd love to hire someone like Drea who's so committed to the work and is so effective at the work that she's doing. So we'll be, you know, looking for resources to make that happen. So thank you for that heads up.
Okay. Well, this is Mary again. On the contact with the chapters, from the beginning, about 2 weeks ago, Vanessa had sent out fax, a flyer through fax to the chapter houses, and we supplied, you know, information, just giving out information on offering help. We did put our email on there so that they could contact us through email. 3 chapters had reached out to us through email. And then we do have someone on the ground. Her name is Glenda. She's one of our leads. So she's been contacting chapters, and so far we have 6 chapters total that are interested in working with us, or, you know, finding, you know, working with us in a capacity where, you know, directing them to certain vendors or things like that. And the chapters that we have are Sawmill, Crystal, Saley, Port Defiance, Wakefields, and St. Michael's. So those are the chapters that have expressed interest in working with us as far as connecting them to different vendors and things like that. And then as far as some of the numbers and things like that for the Navajo community, especially geared towards the question that Honorable Amber Cruddy had mentioned regarding Shiprock. From the start, we have, okay, so we have 10,340 requests right now that we have, you know, received. Although there's 70 chapters that we have served, although out of those we have done 440 distributions, although the number of people is not accurate, but mostly only because I need to put in that information as well. Though for the Northern area, that one has, let's see, in the chapter areas, we have in the eastern area, we've spent $331,534 on the communities in the Eastern Agency. Though in the Northern Agency, the entire, just with all the communities combined, we've spent $1,083,242.27. So,
Thank you for the update, ladies and gentlemen, all on the call. In the discussion to adopt the agenda, we basically wanted to also participate in the leadership meeting regarding hardship assistance. And that was supposed to start at 1 o'clock. So the update report turned into kind of a conversation. And so we appreciate input and all the folks that added to this. Please understand in the future that, let's keep it in a report perspective so that and in the future, let's refrain from mentioning names. Just put it in the perspective of staff and volunteers. I think that that's very important. From the work I've done on the council, that's the usual perspective. And you don't basically pinpoint a person and then critique and whatnot starts going to them. So just be careful going forward.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation. Right now the committee, the HES committee, is real aware of that aspect. So with that, I hate to rush everybody off, but Mr. Mose, could you provide us a roll call vote?
All right, sir. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Honorable Carl Russell Slater.
Delegate Slater Green.
Honorable Carl Russell Slater votes green. Honorable Pernell Halota.
Halota votes green.
Halota votes green. Honorable Charlene So.
I vote green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Edison J. Wanika. Honorable Edison J. Wanika. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Chair, a vote of 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, thank you, committee members, and then Ms. Branch and Ms. Begay and Ms. Francis, as well as colleague Honorable Amber Knezbat-Crotty and Honorable Nathaniel Brown. With that, thank you. So I would call for a recess for 1 hour.
Should I, Chair?
Yeah.
The invite that I have indicates 2 to 3 p.m. leadership teleconference update call and hardship applications with the controller. So to me,
so they changed the time. The one that I had. Yes, They must have changed the time because the one I had showed 1 p.m. So good. We'll continue with our meeting then. In that regard, then let's go with update from Navajo Indian area, Navajo Area Indian Health Services, Mr. Naabik'íyáti and Miss Rosalind So.
Good morning, actually noontime, sorry. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Naabik'íyáti with the Navajo Area Indian Health Service, Office of Indian Self-Determination. Thank you for allowing the IHS to provide a brief report on the upcoming 2023 budget formulation and water projects, ongoing water project activities. But first, I just would like to acknowledge the Navajo Nation, the local chapters, and IHS, as well as 638 providers for their tireless and dedicated work for the Navajo people during the ongoing pandemic. But I want to ensure you that our COVID-19 response activity remains the area's top priority. But with regard to the 2023 budget formulation process, we are seeing a surge in COVID-19 cases or a second wave. As a result, this year's budget formulation will be done in 2 phases with virtual consultation on December 2nd. And this will involve the IHS, tribes and tribal organizations, as well as our urban center, Native Americans for Community Action, or NACA program. But phase 1 establishes a local work group formed at each location. And this will more or less decentralize the planning and identification of budget priorities, hot issues, and success stories to the local federal and non-federal organizations. These 638 contractors and compactors, federal sites, as well as the 2 tribes, the Navajo Nation and the San Juan Southern Paiute tribe, will do a collective process and develop one set budget priority, hot issues, and success stories for each location. And this will allow an efficient roll-up of data at the next level, at the area level, on December 2nd. But with regard to priorities number 1 and number 2, we have stated that this will not change for the fiscal year 2023 ranking priorities. Number 1 previously for fiscal year 2022 was the healthcare facility construction, and this will remain number 1. And number 2 will be the water and sanitation program. However, to align with the IHS consultation process, Navajo area would like to have these organizations acknowledge in keeping priority 1, healthcare facility construction, and priority 2, water and sanitation rankings, or if they have other priorities 1 and 2, we also welcome their input to align with the consultation process. But I do anticipate a set of reports from the 5 entities by November 23rd. And each again, reiterating each organization, each of the 5 organizations will provide budget priorities, hot issues, as well as success story reports. And these activities will help meet the timeline deliverables, compile the information, and discuss those issues on December 2nd. The planning session will be area-wide focus, meaning priorities for the Navajo area service population. Once we receive this information on November 23rd, the work groups will numerically rank to create a composite set of budgets of the priorities and hot issues for the Navajo area. as well as aggregate the success stories into one single report. The agenda, as well as the online registration for this session, are forthcoming, and the material packets will be available via link site after November 27, 2020. But transitioning into phase 2, the virtual session will be to review the outcome and come to a consensus for the budget priorities, hot issues, and success stories, and compile the budget allocation dollar amounts in the Excel worksheets. Again, this virtual session meeting is scheduled for December 2nd, 2020 from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. noon for 3 hours. But overall, I am pleased with the enthusiasm our staff, IHS, and federal sites, as well as our tribal leaders as we move forward on identifying these priorities. We are on track with the FY 2023 budget formulation process, but transitioning with regard to transitional water point projects, the IHS continues to work with the Navajo Nation, local chapters, and various universities, as well as non-governmental organizations, with the goal to promote safe water consumption by the Navajo people who have no piped water, by building trust and knowledge on how to access safe water. The Water Coordination Work Group have established a website, www.navajosafewater.org, and there's a number of material information that people could assess and review. But overall, a total of 57 total complete active water projects have been carried out throughout the Navajo Nation. The next campaign from the Water Access Coordination Group will be to establish water safe storage as water collection programs. It is my understanding that the distribution of 5-gallon water storage containers and disinfecting tabs are available to community members, and this information will be publicized in the Navajo Times in this coming issue. But the funding sources are coming from the IHS using CARES Act funding, and they will remain fully in place until fully expended or when the health emergency is over, whatever comes first. But with regard to other water projects, there are a number of ongoing water projects throughout the Navajo Nation, and without knowing specifically what community, I can't provide detailed information. However, what I can say is that there has been a lot of attention given to the IHS water projects in the last 6 months or so, and we are often asked by the media, chapters, as well as the Navajo Nation, why does it take so long for IHS to build these water line projects? Based on the conversations I've had with engineers, it's difficult for many reasons. Many, especially the ones who are not in the construction business, to understand why putting a pipe in the ground takes so long. Just recently, I received a construction plan set and design book that will be processed through the Navajo Nation EPA and then to NTUA for review prior to construction. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to scan some of these documents to demonstrate the size and complexity of a typical water line project. And this project is for the Shanto White Post water system in the Black Mesa water line extension. It's my understanding that it will serve 20 service homes, and that water line will also benefit another 136 homes. But to give you an idea, the MOA was signed in July 24th of 2017. Project funds were allocated around October 2017. Construction is anticipated to start December 1st of 2020. Therefore, it has taken approximately 3 years to get this project in construction, for construction start. Much of this is due to the design process, which involves the home site assessment for water, sewer, plumbing, as well as looking into the water system hydraulic modeling, as well as the booster designs, cultural clearance of archaeology, biological clearances, threatened and endangered species surveys for those particular sites, and not to mention the complex right-of-way process. So it is estimated that this project will take 9 months to build, with a completion date of September 20th, 2021. But the beneficial use is estimated around December 2021. So therefore, this project will take from MOA start to construction finish about 4 years and 5 months. And I believe our IHS staff, as well as our engineers, are doing a Herculean effort to get big projects like this to construction. So it is helpful to fully appreciate the work involved in getting a project like this underway. And it does involve a lot of coordinated efforts. So that, at least that gives you an idea of why some of these projects take too long. But in terms of transparency, the IHS have tried very hard to communicate as broadly as possible about these services. But in closing, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss some of these issues and look forward to continuing this conversation in the future. But other than that, I appreciate your time. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yazzie. The other aspects, there was the aspect of the process of the priorities, the IHS budget priorities, as well as the water line priorities. You had previously shared some email regarding that. And there was even a message that the priorities from FY20 would remain into FY21. Can you provide some information on that?
Yeah, thank you, Delegate. So for that, again, we to align with our consultation policy, we want to be open. So we don't want to be premature in strictly identifying priorities number 1 and number 2. And I think we kind of want that determination to be established by the tribal organization, 638 sites, as well as our urban center. And then when we come together on December 2nd, we'll kind of identify these were the priorities collectively throughout the Navajo area IHS. And then we'll have time to discuss those priorities and come to a mutual consensus of what priority number 1 should be, priority number 2. Previously, we've had identified up to 5 priorities, but I think Navajo area has always identified up to 10 priorities. So hopefully we can come to an understanding of what those priorities will be for the Navajo area, but consistently over the course of the past 3 to 4 years, the top priorities within the Navajo area have always been construction as well as projects for number 1 and number 2. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Yazzie, committee members, how do you wish to proceed on this?
Motion to accept the report. Lona.
Thank you, Honorable Pernell Halona, for the motion to accept the report.
Second, Delegate Paul McGee.
And then, thank you, Sache. Honorable Paul Begay seconds the motion. Further discussion? Let's see.
Can I chair show? This is Delegate Slater.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So in regard to the budget formulation side of the presentation, do you think it'd be appropriate for us to have a work session with the Department of Health and the 638 to review everything and create an action plan on the Navajo Nation side? And I just want to know what the committee thinks about that. And the second part on the water access side, I would like us to have a joint work session with RDC to develop a comprehensive water plan that will bring all the stakeholders together. And that would be part of a different submission that we can provide to the incoming presidential administration. When I participated in the budget formulation meetings this past year, it was in January, I believe, or it was the end of February. I was exposed to this concept, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he's from United Southern Eastern Tribes. He's an executive director, and the contention is we need to, as a nation, as the United States, recognize that the obligations to American Indians precede any other sort of funding obligation that exists in the government. And it needs to be treated as such based off of our constitutional relationship with the United States. And that will hopefully yield the best funding outcomes instead of just getting better at the slick process of participating with the federal government, trying to lobby and, we need to shake things up so that we can get the appropriate funding to actually connect every Navajo house to water and electricity. So that's kind of my thought, that we need to have two parallel processes going forward, and we need to get going ASAP because January 20th is going to be here very soon. So that's my request, Chair. And I just want to hear the feedback from our colleagues on if they think that that's a worthy endeavor or have different ideas about how to accomplish similar objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Slater. Committee members, there is the question to the committee to schedule one item, to schedule a meeting or schedule a work session with all the 638 healthcare entities as well as the Department of Health. And then number two, a joint work session with RDC regarding the water projects. Okay. Honorable Slater, we could address that at the end, right under, let's say, new business. We could put those on our schedule.
Understood. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Kusila. Committee members, regarding Mr. Yazi's presentation. I'm trying to, there is one other item where, and I'm trying to find that email, where there is a request to have the nation state a position under tribal consultation. And I'm trying to find that particular email from Area Director Roseland. So oh gosh. The one that's titled CHAP Funding Consultation that closes 11/23. Mr. Yazi, can you provide some guidance on that? And I'm trying to get that understanding what CHAP funding is.
Oh, okay, perfect. The chat program is a new program within the IHS. Some tribes and tribal organizations can incorporate the chat program, which is the community health aid program within their ISDIA contracts. It's from my understanding, we do want to have at least a 30-minute session with the Navajo Nation to have our subject matter expert provide a little bit more detail information on the chat program, which may interest some of the 638 sites, as well as the Navajo Nation, seeing if that's something that they would be open to. But generally, from what I've seen from a national perspective, is that it's usually geared or concentrated more for smaller tribes with limited funding. But we can have, I could follow up with you in a separate email, scheduling a time perhaps on November 23rd. I was thinking November 23rd. We could hold a call with the members of the HES committee as well as the Navajo area 638 sites. I don't anticipate that it would take more than 30 minutes, but at least it would give you an idea, as well as other people, of what the aspects of the chat program are, how it could be incorporated into a ISDIA contract, and what benefits the Navajo Nation would get from this particular chat program. But there are a number of layers involved with it, but currently the IHS has allocated up to $5 million for nationally, and for tribes to explore some of the avenues of the chat program. I think that's what the statement of position that Ms. So had mentioned in terms of the funding consultation, that is due on November 23rd.
Okay. Thank you. And that's, I wish we had more time. For myself, I've got, and the committee, you're welcome to proceed to do that work session regarding the chat and the other aspects, perhaps Monday, but I've scheduled myself for 2 other meetings that day. Okay. Any other questions, comments, committee members? If not, let's go to a vote to accept the report, and then once we get through that aspect, then we'll schedule the recommended meetings. Mr. Mose.
Yes, sir. Honorable Paul Begay Jr.
Helga Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Carl Russell Slater.
Delegate Slater, green.
Honorable Carl Russell Slater votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona.
One votes green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Edison J. Wanika. Honorable Edison J. Wanika. Last call, Honorable Charlene So. Chair, you have a vote of 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
So my call
Wanika votes green.
Who?
Wanika votes green.
So
Edison J. Wanika votes green. Honorable Charlene So.
I vote green as well.
Thank you very much. Honorable Charlene So votes green. Chair, you have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, committee members. Appreciate the reaching back out to join the meeting. With that, let the record show a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, and the chair not voting to accept the report. That brings us to old business, there being none. 7, new business. A, other, and that would be the proposal that Honorable Carl Slater put forth. One is to schedule a work session with the 638 healthcare entities as well as Department of Health and Navajo area IHS regarding IHS budget as well as the other water line projects that come through IHS. So, and I guess the other part is the mental and behavioral health aspects of the IHS funding. That would be one meeting. Then another meeting would be to do a focus on the waterline projects. I can't remember the exact public law, 87127, something in that regard. The waterline projects that come through area office, and then once they do get developed, then NECA usually does the construction. And the projects are then handed over to NTUA. So that would be the other work session, joint work session. So committee members, that could happen for sure. The other is this, what we need to take a position on regarding the CHAP. Part of the acronym is Health Aid. I don't know if that's that part where, remember, there was the effort to change CHR program to this CHAP program. My memory's starting to kind of clear on that again. So that's what we may have to make a position statement on. And the deadline for that consultation is November 23rd. So, committee members, that's 3 meetings, 3 work sessions. How do you wish to proceed?
Chair, this is Delegate Slater. Can I ask a question?
Honorable Slater, you have the floor.
Thank you. So are you proposing that the CHAP CHR conversation would be a separate work session, or is that the third? I was trying to figure out exactly which the 3 are.
Yeah, the CHAP, see the consultation period ends for that CHAP on 11/23. And I thought I had sent that email to all the committee members what Ms. So had relayed to us. So that would happen the 23rd. And if the committee wants to combine the other aspects, then they're welcome to. But for myself, I've committed to New Mexico PED on education, and that one's being convened by Assistant Secretary Lashana So. Shall we then basically schedule that the work session to include participating in that call with Assistant Secretary Lashana So with New Mexico PED, as well as this tribal consultation on CHAP on the 23rd. That would be one. Then the other part about developing the budget requests and the meeting that you suggested where we have the work session with the 638 entities as well as Department of Health. Then that would be 2, and then the other is the work session on the waterline projects jointly with RDC.
I support participating in the November 23rd consultation, and I think I'm not sure how much of a discussion we need to have on CHAP. I think it's pretty universally accepted that CHR is superior for our needs, and that's the program we desire to continue funding and seeing support from Congress. My recommendation would be to request the Department of Health to develop a position paper that we can submit as a letter from both the council and the president. And, the committee, I guess, could independently act on some legislation. It needs to be drafted pretty quickly. So that's why I was suggesting a letter that the speaker and the president, or you, Chair, could just submit, and that would express the nation's position, et cetera, without having to develop a legislation under such a short timeline.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let me get with Ms. Bob Roth, and then we may have a draft for the committee to review on the 23rd. So we'll proceed on that. But I'd like to get a motion and a second to schedule these 3 items and that way we can put it into a request to Speaker Damon by tomorrow morning.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, so all three is one work session or a special meeting, Mr. Chair?
They would be work sessions, basically, I think. Unless there are legislation that's coming. I haven't seen anything that's ready for committee action. Committee, and don't let me, okay, a work session, we basically, you know, before we would be just reimbursed for mileage. But a meeting, we would get reimbursed for actions. So that's where it falls on back to the committee. How do you wish to proceed?
Chair,
Committee member?
Motion.
Motion. Motion for special meetings or work sessions? Committee members?
Chair, could you repeat that again?
Okay. Does the committee want a work session or a to request for special meetings? One would be the 23rd. There's that consultation on the chat. But we could also include the meeting where Lashana So is scheduling has scheduled a meeting with the Department of Education and the New Mexico Public Education Department.
Hello, Delegate. Oh, this is Marquise. I just have a quick comment.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Yazzie.
So, alternatively, in order for the tribe to make any type of comments by November 23rd, what I can do is perhaps have a meeting of some sort, or have the subject matter expert on the chat program present tomorrow between 8 and 9 a.m. If that allows some flexibility in terms of at least getting the presentation from the IHS regarding the chat matter. And then come November 23rd, that should provide some adequate time for the Navajo Nation to make any statement of position. And then that'll also align with the close of the consultation, where IHS, and then afterwards the IHS will conduct an analysis of all the comments, which may include the Navajo Nation's position, provide the updates to the tribes on the consultation, and then kind of begin developing the final funding decisions. regarding that $5 million allocation.
Thank you.
Committee members.
Mr. Chair, you need 24-hour notice to Speaker's office for a meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. And I don't know if we could schedule it for Friday morning.
Let me check with Friday. Is there a particular time if we wanted to work on that Friday meeting? I'll have to check with a number of individuals, but I think that's something that would be amenable to the IHS to see how we can provide this technical assistance and information to your committee.
Committee members, and look, my schedule is just if we did Friday, then it would have to be in the afternoon, perhaps at 1 o'clock. Committee members, it's up to you. And
Chair, this is Delegate.
Chair, this is Delegate Slater. I'm back on.
no, thank you, Honorable Charlene. So go ahead.
I apologize, Shiaj and colleagues. My calendar's not downloading, so my input's going to be just pretty much in favor with whatever the rest of the committee members decide. So it's very windy here.
No, yes, Honorable Slater is experiencing that same difficulties. Okay, Ms. Martinez, let's get
Chair.
Let's get go.
Delegate Begay.
Yes, Honorable Che. Honorable Begay, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chair, colleagues, committee members. We're talking about this Friday. We're talking about this Friday. Is that right?
Yeah, the 19th, to do a work session just to listen to this subject matter expert on chat. Okay. And then based on that, and hopefully it just takes an hour. And then Monday we can take a position.
Okay. Thank you, Che, for the information. I think as long as we don't take too much of the time, I think I'm fine with that on Friday. I think I like the other phone number better too. Thank you.
Okay, yes. Okay, let's see. All right, Miss Martinez and Mr. Mose. Let's do a request for a special work session on Friday, 1 p.m. Mr. Yazzie, 1 p.m.
All right, perfect.
Let's try to keep it to an hour, because I try to give the committee as much time for their own work as well as to get rest for the next week. So the 19th, we'll just get a presentation on the chat. And then Monday, there will be a special meeting to actually vote on that position. And then we'll keep it at that. And then after Thanksgiving, then we can do the other work, perhaps the 30th, to do a special meeting with the Department of Health and the 638 entities on the IHS budget requests as well as priorities. We'll go that far out.
Mr. Chair, excuse me. Is there a HES meeting on the 25th, November 25th, regular meeting?
I don't know if we'll have legislations ready.
I didn't see any listed, Mr. Chair.
And committee members, you want the day off on the 25th?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Martinez, the 25th meeting, we'll hold it on the 30th. In lieu of the 25th, we'll hold the meeting on the 30th. Abiga, yeah, what?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Committee members, if we could have a motion, and we'll take a vote on those three items. Work session on Friday, the special meeting on the 23rd, and then rescheduling the regular meeting from the 25th to the 30th. Let's proceed in that manner.
Chair. Chair.
Oh.
The
we have a
25th is on Wednesday.
What's that? Jay, what?
The 25th is on a Wednesday, right?
Oh.
Okay. I would stick with the 25th. We have a resource and development meeting that I'm hosting here at Antelope Point for quadrilateral agreement and all the issues that pertain to Antelope Point. So I won't be at the meeting if it's on the 30th.
Okay.
So I would favor just having it on the 25th. But it all depends on the rest of the committee members. Thank you.
Well, committee members, you have that. Ashiko, shall we just go ahead and meet on the regular meeting day on the 25th then?
That works for me, Chair.
Well, Sheila. So let's revise the agenda then for the schedule. The 19th for a work session. Just on
the 19th is Thursday.
The 20th. I'm sorry, the 20th at 1 p.m. 1 hour on this presentation on the CHAP. Then a special meeting on the 23rd. And then regular meeting on the 25th. So we just need, what's Adole? Just a request for the work session on the 20th and the special meeting on the 23rd. Ms. Martinez.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, Kushila. Committee members, we have a motion and a second to do the work session and a special meeting. Mr. Mose, vote.
Can we get a motion second, sir?
There's no motion or no second.
There was a motion by Honorable Wanika.
Second, Halona.
Second by Honorable Halona.
Okay, all right, sir. The vote, okay. Honorable Paul Begay Jr.
Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Carl Russell Slater.
Doug Slater, green.
Honorable Carl Russell Slater votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Halona votes green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Charlene So.
I vote green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Edison J. Wanika.
Green.
Honorable Edison J. Wanika votes green. Chair, I have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, committee members. So the 19th and the 23rd and the 25th. So with that, the chair is open for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by
Second,
Honorable
Slater.
Motion by Honorable Halona, second by Honorable Wanika. Thank you, committee members.
Chair, I'm sorry I was late for the meeting. I had a hospital appointment. I thought it wasn't going to take long, but it took a while.
Of course, Attila, your health is very important, so don't need to apologize. We certainly excuse you for that. I see.
All right.
Committee members, I got a call the other night. That's been very troubling for me, and I don't know how to best proceed. I understand our colleague, Brother Thomas Walker Jr., lost his mom, and within a short time lost his sister. And so that's the reason he hasn't been on our calls. In our best way, reach out to him. I've been trying to find the strength to give him a call, and I got the call from South Dakota the other night that basically said you need to reach out to your brother. That was Dr. Patricia Nez Henderson, a close relative of our colleague Thomas Walker. So, if you would, committee members individually give a call to our colleague. Mr. Mose, a vote on the adjournment.
Right, sir. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Honorable Carl Russell Slater.
Delegate Slater, green.
Honorable Carl Russell Slater votes green. Honorable Pernell Halota.
Delegate Halona, green.
Honorable Pernell Halota votes green. Honorable Charlene So.
I vote green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Edison J. Winika.
Green.
Honorable Edison J. Winika votes green. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Chair, a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed.
Paul Begay votes green.
Okay, as you were, Honorable Paul Begay Jr. votes green. You have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Adjournment at 1:59 p.m.
Thank you, committee members. Appreciate your participation, and we'll join you on the next call, the leadership call happening at 2. Thank you. Be safe out there. Take care of yourself. Thank you.
Oh.
We are adjourned.